Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Carpo's Q&A Answers Part 2. It's funny, when I told my wife I was doing Q&A, she's like, that's going to be a long video. And I was like, nah, it won't be that long. I can answer questions pretty quick. And then I just made the first video. It took me 8.5 minutes to answer one person. So this is Part 2. And maybe there'll be a Part 3, who knows. But I want to answer them as accurately as I can without just blowing people off, you know. This next one is from LunaLotus Wind Dancer. She says, what do you think of spirits, hauntings, and ghosts? What do you think of the accounts of the supernatural world that have been throughout time? Maybe give us your favorite or most intriguing story anywhere around the world. I'm not sure you've done a video on this yet. And that's a good question, and you'll see that it's one that I do tend to avoid talking about. My personal experiences have been something of a mystery to me. Last year, when I was up in the Mount Adams wilderness camping with my oldest son, he's 21, we saw something that blew our minds. Okay, there have been a lot of talk up there about light beings, and they're these little, they look like, could be, you know, any light, a helicopter. It just basically looks like a star moving through the sky, which you may mistake for, say, a satellite or something. However, these ones will stop, and they'll turn, and they'll move, and the only description I can give is that they're like ants, that they seem conscious. And the minute I said, come closer, it got brighter and appeared to start moving towards us. And then I said, wait, no, and then it started to back off. It got dimmer and went away. And I'm not just saying it got a little brighter, I'm saying it brightened up, kind of like a satellite does when it reflects the sun, but it was not a satellite. This thing couldn't be more than a couple miles up, and it was moving in this strange pattern, and eventually wandered off. Even though we both saw it and we're both convinced of it, we're still very cautious about whether we're willing to say, yes, we saw something, you know, that's outside of the realm of what we know. Just because I know that the eyes play tricks on people. And so when it comes down to history, I know that we had many accounts of ghosts, spirits, hauntings, and whatnot. And the question has always been to me, not whether or not they exist, but what they are. When it comes to hauntings, I always think about poltergeists, and how some of the more prominent theories on it say that the person is creating the poltergeist, that the person, and this is why they will follow a person from house to house, that the person may be manifesting this negative energy. Yet other people will say that there's no such thing, and that poltergeists haven't done anything, and that there are no, you know, books flying off of shelves. I'll just say this, I can't deny the experiences that people have all had. Yet whenever I think about ghost stories, I always think about, say, stories of people saying Mother Teresa or Jesus in toast, or the idea that humans are pattern seeking, and by nature we want to find these truths. We want to say something outside of our realm because it makes it easier for us to live, to think that there's something outside of us that may be outside of our capacity in our three-dimensional reality, to show that there is another world or an ether or something. Yes, I do believe that this energy exists, these energies and this what you might call the ether, but I don't have a consensus or an agreement or anything upon what it might be, so I don't talk about it and pretend to know. So I really don't know what else to say about that. That's a difficult subject. I think that there's something to it, but I don't know what. And I realize that all cultures have resonated on it differently. They, you know, the jinn or the trickster, different cultures have different ideas of this other dimension, if you will, which I don't believe it's really a dimension, rather, but just a force of energy we can't measure. And I don't know what it is. I don't. Not a clue. The LogicOnlyZone. What's up, brother? He says, are addictions bad? How can we justify an addiction? Do we need addictions? Just something I was thinking about last night drinking a couple beers. I guess I should answer them separately. The first thing is, are addictions bad? Is an addiction causing you to lose anything of who you are? If you have a drug addiction, is it causing you to act in a different behavior than you want to act, or that you feel like is you? Such as if you drink too much and you act belligerent all the time. That's different than having a couple beers at night just to become more comfortable. Now, I'm no expert on addictions, but I'm an expert at having them. I was a smoker for 25 years, and I recently started vaping about a year ago, and this is to fulfill that hand-to-mouth addiction, that You know, this is a security blanket, okay? When you're a kid and you suck your thumb, this is no different than a thumb, or which is just a representative of a tit, okay? You want to get down to what we are all nursing from the tit of life. And so our addictions help us to overcome this crazy adversity. I don't think it's any one person's place to tell another that they have an addiction or that their addiction is a problem, because we don't know what people are facing on their individual levels. Yet, I would just say to that, how do you know if addictions are bad? Is if family and friends are telling you that you have a problem, and they're showing you why it's a problem, such as if you drink a lot and you get yourself into trouble when you drink, or if you smoke so much pot you never get off the couch, or if you know, there are plenty of functional heroin users in the world, but you could also be a complete junkie. And so, are addictions bad? I think that they're part of life. It's an attachment to something. And do we need addictions? The final part of it, I don't know. Maybe. I think that's a very subjective question. I think that if you need an addiction, I'll just put it this way. I've been to AA and I've seen how people could be in there and they say, I drank for a full year and now I've been in AA for 20 years. And they are so obsessed thinking about that old addiction. It's almost as if AA has got more in the way of their life than the addiction ever did, because people are yearning to have something to attach to, and when they've told themselves, I will never touch a drug or a drink again, sometimes that can make people a little loopy, and they become pious and start telling others how to live, telling others you need to live clean, you need to live sober. And to me, this doesn't show that the person's, explaining why a person should be this way other than I'm this way. So, as for addictions, I say we just back off of what society's telling us and figure it out for ourselves. That's the only way I've been able to do it, because I've been told plenty of times that I have addictions, and I say, yeah, well, I'm a human. I'm addicted. Next question is from PuppyAlex. If you could meet any figure of in human history, living or dead, who would you choose? I've been thinking about this since I read this question. My first impulse that crossed my mind was Manly P. Hall. And he recently died. He was actually killed in, I think, 1990. And the reason I picked Manly Hall is because he was a man in the modern day who had a grasp of all the ancient theories and ideas and philosophers, yet was able to bring it into the 20th century with the new discoveries we'd made. So I would say I'd go back in time and meet someone like, say, Socrates or Aristotle, but I don't know what they were really like. I know that history tends to paint a beautiful picture on philosophers of the past or thinkers, and in all honesty, I really don't think that meeting any of them would help me. Even say to meet someone like, even say go back and meet Jesus, at what point in his life would you meet him? Would it matter? Would he be really as enlightened as Christians may think? I don't think any of that matters, because it's all speculation. So if I could go back in history, it would have to be in a recent history, to where I could actually learn something from it instead of getting these theories about what atomic structure may be. And people spent a lot of time philosophizing on things they were not sure about. And so Manly P. Hall would be the answer to that. He was a man who had a lot of understanding of the kind of things that I'm interested in. So, at least at the moment, that's my thought. Next question is Daniel Riley. Some time ago, you said you had tickets to go to a sensory deprivation chamber. Did you ever go to it? No. Actually, I still have the coupon, and I keep forgetting about it. Thanks for reminding me. My son and I were supposed to go together, and we were going to go recently. I spaced it off. I'm really looking forward to it. It's almost like I'm using the anticipation of it as... because I know that, you go shopping. Sometimes I'll go shopping and I'll put some stuff in my cart, and then at the end I'll just put it all back and walk out and leave. Because the excitement comes from the anticipation often, not the actual purchase or doing of something. However, I'm very much looking forward to doing it, because I think it'll be a great experience. It's really getting in touch with your, removing the senses and getting into your thoughts. And so... Not yet, but I hope to. He also asks, when was the first time you took mushrooms? I have no idea. I can't even remember. I think it was when I was in maybe 17 or something. It was psychedelic world back then, so I really don't know when the first time I took them was. Can you land a kickflip? Hell yeah, I can land a kickflip. Actually, I'm proud to say yes. I was a skater for years, and even today I can pick up a skateboard and bust a 180 kickflip. Might take me a couple tries, but I'll never forget one time I landed a 360 kickflip while I was waiting for my friend in front of this store, in front of the hospital, actually. It was in the doctor's office. And of course, nobody was there to see it, so it was the only time I ever landed the 360 kickflip, double flip. But I really enjoyed skating. I haven't skated in years, but... when was the last time you ate McDonald's? I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I think I did stop by once in a desperate time. You know, sometimes somebody else wants to go and you're with them and you end up getting fries or something. That was, I think the last time I went was a few years back. I got fries. Before that, it was probably 15 years. I don't eat fast food. It's just disgusting. So, the next question is, MrStripeyDog, do you have any advice on getting tattoos? Planning, meaning, aesthetics? Nope. I'm a very bad advice on that front because I have hate tattooed across my knuckles. And I did that when I was like 15. I've had that on there all my life. I have a skull on my leg and a rebel and all these weird symbols and stuff. And my only advice for getting tattoos would be, if you really want to get one, ponder it for a year at least. It seems like a long time, but it's not. I was going to get the flower of life on my back. I went in and actually had it talk to the guy, and I was getting ready to do it. And he showed a little concern about the outer circle, because it has to be a double circle. He asked me, does it have to have that outer circle? And I said, yeah. And I just never went back, because by him asking me that question, I felt like he was, how could you even ask that? It's a symbol. I want this picture. But it made me a little sketchy, so I didn't do it. And now, thinking about it, I'm glad I didn't, because that symbol has moved on to all these other ideas that I've had. So I can't even think of a good tattoo to get at this point. And the next question from Zachary32. Zachary P. Do you think astrology is real? Like it is just the astrologer's ESP or something else? I think that this is a difficult one too, because I don't think that... Well, I just grabbed this book to bring in and show you. I do have a book on astrology. It's a big fat chart book. It's a do-it-yourself astrology, and within here it's got every chart, everything you can imagine for every planet. I've done my charts completely, and I have no idea if astrology is real. I do know that there must be some credence lent to it because it's been so useful throughout history. For example, religion has endured because it's given people hope and something to hold on to. Why has astrology endured unless it has some accuracy? So, do I believe that these astrologers in modern day that you send your information into and do your charts, do I believe that they can all give you any real input about your life or future? I really don't think so. I really don't know. I think that a person can tell you what you're likely to be like based on the numbers, but that's not always going to be accurate. I guess in a nutshell I would say avoid astrology, because it's going to tell you something that you might not want to hear. This is along the same line as psychics. Folks have asked me if I've ever been to a psychic, and I say no. Even if I could be told my whole future, that would be all the better reason to not want to know it. I do not want to be tainted by anyone's idea of what I am or what I should be or how I fit in some category. So astrology is interesting, but I don't find it to be a very useful tool for actually learning anything. In fact, not yet. I think that it's more the New Age hocus pocus has seized upon it and used it as another, I don't know. I'm trying not to be harsh, you know, because I have my own views, and anybody who believe what they're going to believe, that's their choice. So I don't deny it or really believe it. It's somewhere in between. I think there's some truth to when you're born, where you're born, and how it relates to the stars and the moon, but I can't get a good enough understanding of how that relates and how we utilize that. The next question is, DSLP, what was your life like as a teenager? Oh my God, that's a very, 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 very deep question, I guess. Well, kind of sucked. My parents got divorced when I was 12, and then I moved to Oregon City with my dad. the minute I got there, the school bully picked on me all the time, and I never made any friends. Then I moved to Lake Oswego, which was the rich area, and spent most of my teen years there, living among rich, spoiled-ass bitch kids while we lived in the first edition, which was the poor part of the neighborhood. And then I just got into high school, and my father passed away like the day before my sophomore year started. I was constantly harassed and teased. I had bad acne, so I always had monster zits all over. And I guess it didn't really, I wasn't angry or upset by it. Like, these things didn't really bother me. I was a happy person. I just went out skating with my friends and made my little clique group, and we went to heavy metal concerts, got into the Grateful Dead, and I found my group, so I was lucky to have some people that I loved and cared for. But it was, I'll just be honest, my childhood is kind of a dim memory. I blocked out most of my childhood before my teen years. And even in my teen years, the more I try to recall, it just seems to be bits and pieces, which I think is important because you're rebuilding who you are every day. And so I think letting go of the past is the most important thing, so maybe I'm grateful that I don't remember too much. When I do remember, I usually remember the good times, you know, hitchhiking to California for the Grateful Dead, or to Seattle, or you know, going to parties with my friends and doing fun stuff, you know. But I made some mistakes and learned from them. We all do. And I'm a much happier person now than I was as a teenager, at least because I understand that the happiness comes from within and not from without. Hope that helps. Next question. Grimreefer. How did you get into carpentry, and where did you learn how to do it? And if you do not have formal certification or schooling, how were your customers able to recognize your credibility? Well, I don't know if that two questions relate, or if you meant the customers of my herb business or my carpentry business. I got into carpentry by becoming a roofer, and then working with a friend who was a roofer, and then I got into doing foundations and building houses with someone else, and we got into this crazy 2-year remodel job in Lake Oswego, and they had this curved staircase they needed to build, and nobody wanted to tackle it, and nobody had done it. So I went and bought a book, studied it, did all this research, and I took it on, and I did this crazy, like, curved cherry staircase. It's just, you know, amazing. And looking back on it, that was kind of the catalyst that launched me into starting my own finished carpentry business, which I ran for a few years. And basically my thing was, I like the detailed stuff. I do cabinetry and super detailed fine finish work. So I got into it by just being exposed to the basic construction industry, but I yearned for something greater than just swinging a hammer and putting in walls. I wanted to do art, so I did it myself. That's how I got into it. I studied it. I went and bought books at the store about finished carpentry, went home and studied the tools and the methods, which means that I wasn't just going to work and coming home. I was going to work, coming home, and doing homework about the work I was doing. And that's really essential if you want to move forward in any field. And the only reason I left was because of my back pain. So I'm still a carpenter, and I love carpentry. If you don't have formal certification or schooling, how were customers able to recognize your credibility? If you're talking about the herb business, back then I had to find customers through word of mouth. With my herb business, it was through YouTube. YouTube is my credibility. Sounds funny, but I didn't start my business until a few years after I had my YouTube channel, and I thought, well, I'm just going to have to rely on how people see me and whether or not they trust me. That's it. There's no credibility in this world. You can't prove to anybody that you're worthy of, you know, them purchasing from you unless they do it and you treat them with respect. So it takes time. I don't get very many sales, and I'm still building my clientele. My herb business is actually pretty low profit, and I'd like to get it up there, but I have a hard time because I refuse to compete by putting out bullshit about how great this is, better than this and better than this, and putting fancy labels on my packages and stuff. I just want people to get the products that they need. So my thing is not about flashy advertising, and that costs me because people like flashy advertising. But as far as like credibility, that's it. I have to build it on what people see of me on YouTube, as well as word of mouth from my friends and family. It's not easy. And he also says, ever tried mescaline? Yes, I have a few times. My friend makes it, or did a while back. And I had a bunch of mescaline citrate, and I took it at home one time, and then I took it with me to Tennessee to the Bonnaroo Music Festival, and I took it right before the Beastie Boys came on. Watched the Beastie Boys, and it hit me about the time that Fish played, and it was the most emotional concert I'd ever. I mean, I was crying the whole time, and I went back, and we ended up going to sleep. Woke up in the morning, and everything was still moving. Mescaline has legs. It's strong stuff, and in fact, I finally acquired some 2CB from a friend recently, which I still haven't tried, but 2CB is a synthetic derivative, or derivative from cactus. It's related. It's one of the compounds in mescaline. So by taking the mescaline citrate, you're less likely to be nauseous than you would, say, eating cactus. But I don't have a lot of experience with it. I just find that it is a phenomenal psychedelic, and one that's very special and deserves respect. So let's see how much more I have here. So I got quite a few more questions, so I'm going to cut it off now just in case something happens with the video, and then I'm going to start another one. So the next one will be Shadow Wolf to start off.